Hi, you're listening to the Build Your Digital Community podcast. I'm your host, Kristina Bartold, the co-founder and co-CEO of The Social Snippet, a social media agency focused on business owners growing their digital communities. On this podcast, we'll talk about all things digital community building so that you can grow your network and ultimately your business. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Build Your Digital Community. I'm your host, I'm Kristina, and I know I say this every time I have a guest. Every time I have a guest, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. It's this person, but I am so excited to have Stephanie Cartin here. And the reason why is because we talk a lot on this podcast about building community, digital, online, in person, whatever kind of makes sense for your business. And I love having people who actually build community on and who really pour into other people. And so Steph is a perfect example of that. Steph is the CEO and co-founder of Entreprenista, which is one of mine, if not my favorite community online. I literally, every time I get on a connection call with a new person, I'm like, have you heard of Entreprenista? Because it's so high level, like the people are so great, all the resources you need are in there. And she is also the co-founder of Markid, Pearl Influential Capital, and Socialfly. And most importantly, she's a mom, and she told me her daughter's name's Molly Hope, and I almost just cried because it's the cutest name I've ever heard. But welcome to the podcast, Steph.
Thank you, Kristina. So excited to chat with you today. And I just feel and love your energy through our riverside right now. And I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
Yay! Well, I want to hear from you, Steph. Like, how did you get started as an entrepreneur, and what kind of led you to like wanting to create this like incredible community of women?
Absolutely. So my business partner, Courtney, and I, we started our first business called Socialfly, which is a full service social media marketing and an influencer agency that we started 11 plus years ago now. So over a decade ago, we started on the side of our full-time jobs. So Courtney and I were both working in the corporate world. We had corporate jobs. We started taking on clients together on the side, working nights and weekends for about 10 months together before we finally said to each other, all right, if this is going to be a real business, let's go all in and do it or not do it at all, because it just became too much to be working a 9-to-5 job or 9-to-6 job and working every single weekend and just trying to make it all happen and realizing, you know, you can start something as a side hustle and that's a great way to start something. But ultimately, if you want to build something even bigger, you have to be focused on it for it to grow. So Courtney and I did what any early 20-somethings do. We decided to quit our corporate jobs. But on the same day, it was May 4th, right? Because that's what we all do. May 4th, 2012. We handed in our 2 weeks notice. We quit our corporate jobs and never looked back and grew and scaled Socialfly organically. So we never raised any capital for Socialfly. We bootstrapped the business, which is what most service-based businesses should be bootstrapping. I mean, there are other financing and funding options, but that's typically what's done in a service-based business. We didn't even know anything about funding opportunities back then when we first started, like what we know today. But we bootstrapped the business and we grew and scaled organically. We did really great work for our clients. We always practiced what we preached with our own marketing strategies for our agency business. So, Kristina, we were very quickly number one on Google for social media agency and influencer agency in New York City. So we were getting inbound leads from really big companies pretty early on. And then we started winning awards for our work. And what started to happen was, because of the quick growth and success of Socialfly, so many women founders started reaching out to us like literally every single week, wanting to go out to coffee and wanting to pick our brain and just wanting to hear how we did it. And you know myself and Courtney by now, we are the type of people that like to help absolutely everyone. But we very quickly realized it was physically impossible to go out to coffee with everyone and still run our agency business. So we started thinking, you know, how do we help as many women founders as possible, but really do it at scale? So our initial idea for how to solve that problem was actually to start a podcast like this. So we started our podcast called Entreprenista at the end of 2018. And our podcast really took off from that first episode. And from there, all of 2019, really Entreprenista was just our podcast. So we released a new episode every week. We were organically growing our social community. And then fast forward to the beginning of 2020, we all know, of course, what happens in 2020, and the world changes, business changes, everything changes. And now we start getting messages from our listeners and our followers. We started hearing things like, I lost my job during the pandemic. I want to start a business. Stephanie, Courtney, can you help me? Or Stephanie, Courtney, I need to pivot my business. Can you help us? And Courtney and I, here we are. And we were in the middle of it too, because we're running our agency business in the middle of a pandemic, trying to figure everything out as well. And we're like, we need to help everyone, and now is the time. And what Courtney and I realized was the only way to create and build what we've now created Entreprenista to be over the past 3+ years would be if one of us really focused on it. So Courtney and I decided in the middle of 2020 that I would focus on building everything out with Entreprenista, and Courtney would stay focused on still running, growing, and scaling our agency business, Socialfly. So now 3+ years later, here we are. Entreprenista is now a full media company and membership community dedicated to serving women founders and leaders, giving all the best resources, advice, tools, community, connection, support, everything that's needed, especially in the early days of growing and scaling a business. So I know that was a 5-minute overview of how it came to be, but I thought it would be like important background and context for those who may not know about Entreprenista or our backgrounds.
Okay, so many things I want to tap into there. Like as you were talking, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have her back. Like this is going to have to be a reoccurring episode because so many things there. One, it's like you and Courtney are me and Maria, like of the future, because, you know, we're both a social media agency. Like we built this, we left our 9-to-5s, we're like rolling through this. So huge mentors there. Like that's incredible. And so one of the things you said that I think is really interesting that isn't about Entreprenista, but just want to tap into is that feeling of having so many people to have coffee with. Mm-hmm. And this is something I come across too, where, and maybe this is selfish of me to ask you this, but, you know, I'll have a lot of people listen to this or, you know, it'd be in my network and they'll be like, I'd love to hang out. Like, could we hang out? And I'm like, I don't have capacity. And not in a, I think I'm better than anybody. Not in a, it's just when I look at my schedule, I'm like, are you free November 6th? Like, does that work? And that feels crappy too. It's equally as crappy to do that than to say no. So I'm curious, how did you manage that kind of in that growth season you were in?
So in the early days before Entreprenista existed as a community, it was just trying to be able to schedule, you know, one-on-ones or coffee dates with people to just help and give back and share, and very quickly realizing like that just wasn't scalable. We weren't able to do that because we needed to be focused on growing our business. So we could still keep growing the business, but still wanting to help others as well. So when we created the Entreprenista League, we wanted to really be able to solve for that. It's like, how can we all scale ourselves and our time and still provide all of these resources at scale? So something that Courtney and I do in the Entreprenista community is we host office hours in the Entreprenista League community. So I actually have office hours today, this afternoon. So if you want to come, Kristina. So we do that every single month. And we also bring in other incredible founders and experts to the community as well. So over the next few months, we have founders like Michelle Cordero-Grant. She's the founder of Lively. She's hosting office hours. Denise, the founder of Partake Foods, is hosting office hours. Katie Rosen Kitchens from FabFitFun. Like, these are some of the most incredible women who've grown and scaled these amazing businesses who want to help and share and give their time to help other founders, but they can't spend all day doing that. But they can spend an hour, and then our members in our community can come for that hour to come ask any questions, because now it becomes a little bit more scalable, right? It's not one-on-one where you're sitting down with a founder, like going out to coffee. It's you're all on Zoom, and then everyone's able to ask questions, so everyone can learn from each other. And now these incredible founders who want to help and they want to give back, they can do that in an hour instead of, 10 hours spread out over the course of a year. So that's what we created.
I love that, because it's so hard, I find, when you're in business, because especially early stages, relationships are kind of queen, right? Where you're going out for coffee with people, you're meeting people. It's like kind of like your business development. And then suddenly your business development kind of shifts where, like for us, it happened pretty quickly, where in the first year it was like we'd go for coffee with people and, maybe it turned into a referral kind of situation, like long term, which was awesome. But now we work 100% on referral, and the referrals are coming from our existing clients and our network and all of that, which is great. And I still really believe in going out for coffee with people and connecting, but it's that balance, right? Of like, we were talking about this right before we got on. Like, there's so much to do when you're building a little empire. Like, there's just so many things you can be doing that, like, I want to be maximizing all of my time, but I also know relationships are so core to what we do that it's like, it's such a push and a pull.
Totally. And look, that's the beauty of Zoom now. Like, you can do 15-minute, 20-minute, Zoom calls and calendar block those in your calendar. So you still want to be meeting new people, building your network, building those relationships, and actually tracking them, like having a CRM. And I wish I did. This is one of my biggest regrets is I wish I started a CRM of everyone I've met over the years, like 11 plus years ago, and had like a whole database of every single, like I have a lot of it in my brain, but like that, again, that's not a scalable thing. Like you want to get stuff into systems, and so you can be able to pull from them all the time. So that is something I wish that I did a long time ago, but start that now and block an hour a week, even if it's like 30 minutes twice a week, have two, 15-minute phone calls or Zooms during that time. You can do a lot more virtually. If you're going to physically go out to coffee, that could be 2 hours of your day. Like, yeah, some people might have time for that. Right now, I don't have time for that. You don't have time for that. So how can we all maximize our time and maximize, the value that we can provide with tools and resources that exist now that didn't exist 11 plus years ago?
Oh, I love that. That's genius, because I've been thinking about this a lot too when you meet so many amazing people. So like I am a member of the Entreprenista League, and something I've been so impressed by, like not, it sounds like you paid me to say this, you didn't, is that like there is such a high quality group of women in there. And so you'll put your Calendly link up and there will be so many people that will book a coffee. And I was talking to, I think it was Jess Milanis about this. I was like, the first time I did it, I like put my link up and like so many people booked, and then it was so hard to keep track of all of these people. And like, I wanted some of these people on my podcast, and I wanted to give some of these people business and all of these great things. Right. And I wish that like now, I guess I'm more junior than you are in business. So I think now I could probably start today of creating a list of folks, but also because I love being a good referral partner.
Yes.
So when something comes up for someone, like, you had asked me the other day about a Canadian lawyer, and I was like, yeah, of course, like I've got somebody right on the top of my mind, right? Like having those people kind of close by. So that's an excellent tip.
Yes, absolutely. At Entreprenista, we use the CRM called Copper, and that's how we track everything, and for partnerships as well. You don't need a sophisticated big CRM to keep track of your list of people that you're talking to. You can use a Google Sheet. And actually Copper just came out with another platform called Windy as well for more of like the people tracking. So there's a lot of options out there, some that are very low cost, some that are free, but just anything that you think you're going to remember in your head when you're running a business, you probably won't. So get it written down somewhere.
I love that advice. Yeah, I totally agree. I'm curious, Steph, for you. So early days when you were kind of like, I imagine agency days in 2012 were the Wild West. Like, I think there's tons of agencies now, but I'm sure, there were agencies then too, but like, I'm sure less in that time. So I'm curious for you, like when you were building your business, what was kind of the first few steps you took to start to generate some business and generate some excitement around your brand?
The very first thing that we did, we got the advice from, actually, let me tell you this story. Let me just set the stage here.
Please.
So I tell you, Courtney and I quit our corporate jobs on the same day. We then, that weekend, it was the weekend of Cinco de Mayo, we went out and we celebrated. And then that Monday, we got to work. And at that time, I was living on the Upper West Side in Manhattan. And Courtney comes over to my office. We bought one of those, what are they called? Like those big boards with the sheets of paper where you can just like rip off the sheets of paper. I don't even know what those are called, but we didn't even have a dry erase board, and we start like writing out all the things we need to do, and like we're like we need to get some interns, so we post a job description back then on Craigslist. Do you have Craigslist in Canada? Do you use Craigslist in Canada?
Yeah, we have Craigslist, but isn't it sketch?
So back then there weren't these platforms like now for recruiting and hiring. Like we use Just HR and these other platforms and LinkedIn, but like this was 11 years ago.
Okay, fair.
we posted on Craigslist for interns, and I will tell you, we got back then, like we got the most amazing interns that summer. But so then we start interviewing these interns, and we're like, wait, where are these interns gonna go? And this is before, now it's like everything, you can just do everything remotely. But back then it's like, where are we gonna visit? Like, where are they gonna come into an office? So Courtney remembers, she's like, oh, my mom used to do work with this great man who has a printing company in Manhattan, Frank. Let me have her call him and see like if he has any space available. So Courtney's mom calls Frank, and he's like, ladies, come on down. Let's have a conversation. So we go meet with Frank and his printing company in Midtown Manhattan. And I think it was like the second day we were like full-time in our business. And he says, I have this little space for you here. If you want to have this space to use, can you help me with my social media? So we basically bartered with him to help him with his printing company because he had no idea back then how to use social media for his business. And he gave us this tiny little corner in the back of a printing company, but it was something for us. And it wasn't, we had somewhere to go and to bring people. And then he says, how are you going to get business? And we're like, we're going to pound the pavement and just go door to door and talk to business owners that need help with social media. Because again, Kristina, this was like early days. It was like Facebook and Twitter. not a lot of brands advertising yet. It was like creating these organic strategies, like super like authentic social back then is what we were doing. So he said, I'm part of a networking group and I think you should join this networking group. It's how I get all of my business. I've grown my business, immensely through this networking group. So we were like, okay, take us. How do we join? What do we do? And that was the other lesson was we just learned along the way in the early days of building Socialfly, just the importance of like reaching out and asking for help and listening to other people and advice from other people who are farther ahead in business than us and just learning from them. We were never scared to ask for advice. We were never scared to try new things. That's how we figured everything out. And literally we figured it was like following the breadcrumbs. One thing led to the next thing, led to the next thing. So we go to this networking meeting, and this networking meeting in New York City met at I think it was 7:15 in the morning, super early every Tuesday. And I remember walking into that room for the first time with all of these other business owners, and everyone's going around the room and doing their 60-second elevator pitch, and it's structured networking. All of the business owners in the room were just amazing. And I was one of the youngest people there. I was in my early 20s at the time when we had started the business. And I was like, this is just where I belong. Everyone wants to do business. Everyone cares about each other. Everyone wants to build genuine relationships. And I was like, this is where I'm meant to be. And we got tons of our first clients from that group. And from there, we joined other groups and organizations, a group to learn how to get, press for a business, a group for CEO coaching, all the things, right?
Wow.
So then when we set out to create Entreprenista, we're like, how can we bring everything under one roof and one platform so founders don't feel like they have to be in one group for this, one group for that, one group for this, and spread out all in all of these different places? How do we bring everything under one platform? So that's what led us to create Entreprenista, to take all the best pieces of everything we had done over the past 11 plus years and bring it together.
Oh my gosh, that is a wicked story. I love, firstly, big ups to Frank.
Frank's the best.
Story, right?
Frank is the best.
Yeah. And Steph, are you I feel like you emulate that spirit within your own business. The few times we've connected, you're very generous and the real deal, I think, in terms of leading, bringing people with you. Because I think in business, I'm huge, and I believe you are too. I don't even think I have to ask that, this community over competition.
Absolutely.
There's enough work for all of us.
There
and
is.
even in Entreprenista, I've met so many other social media folks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, you've never hired anyone before. That's interesting. Let me show you my training.
Totally.
Oh, you've never, because it's, we all can rise kind of together.
There's, I think, 13 million women-owned businesses in the United States alone. That's not even including in Canada. There's so much business out there. Your social media agency, just you and your team, can't service 13 million businesses. There's
Not
enough
today.
business for everyone. So and then none of us would ever be sleeping if we were doing that. So we can all grow together. And that's another reason why. So we launched in Entreprenista League. There's all different types of business owners in the community. It's about 50% service-based, and then there's a lot of product-based businesses, nonprofits as well. And since Courtney and I had been in a lot of these other CEO groups and coaching groups over the years, we saw just how important some of these smaller groups are and how impactful they can be. And we were hearing from our members, they wanted more of these smaller groups within the community as well. So Courtney leads our agency owner power group in the community. And sure, Courtney could be like, I don't want to help other agency owners. And it's no, we want to bring other agency owners together because we all can learn from each other. People can set up referral partnerships and agreements. People can refer clients to each other and learn together. We've learned everything. We've been through it all over the past 11 plus years. Let me tell you, if there's a mistake, we've made it. If there's a good thing that's happened, a lot of amazing things have happened as well. But we've learned so much, and we don't need to keep anything a secret. We want to share this information and help so people can do it faster and can learn from mistakes that we've made too. And the things that we've done really well that we know work really well, we want to tell other people because go do it. Go get the business.
Oh, I love that. So curious for you, when you joined these groups kind of early days and now, as you continue, I have no doubt you're continuing to invest in yourself, and as you create Entreprenista, as you pour in, how would you encourage people to show up in those spaces? Because I'll tell you, Steph, like in my experience, like, and something I talk a lot about here is like, not showing up and being like, hey, you need social media, like, here's a card. Like, I don't actually ever pitch anybody until asked. Like, that's a really big value of mine. But I know it works because I've gotten tons of business from Entreprenista. I've gotten tons of business from all different types of places that I've showed up. So I'm curious for you, like, how would you encourage people to show up in these spaces?
I would advise to show up as yourself, authentically, like who you are as a person, and make genuine connections, friendships, and business relationships. And to give, right? Give, and it will come back. Share your expertise, position yourself as a thought leader. You don't need to go into a community platform, whether it's ours or other communities, and say, here's my services. Do you want to buy them? Like, that's not what sells. What people want to do business with people they know, that they care about, that they trust. So if you build a friendship and you build a relationship, and then so let's say for the two of us, Kristina, right? So we're becoming like business friends, business besties, right? So now I might not personally need your services for my business, but guess what? I might know 2, 5, 10, 20 other people that might need your services. So now when we meet, when we connect, I want to genuinely learn about you and your life and like who you are as a person. And I want to learn about your business so I can send you the best referrals, because I'm meeting people all the time. So I need to know like who is that ideal client who you want to connect with. So if you show up and share more about yourself and your business so people know you, and when they're out in the world or doing whatever they're doing in life and in business, everyone's always meeting other people. You want to be that person that's top of mind, and you make it really easy to refer you. So after we, let's say, have a connection call, I might say to you, Kristina, can you just send to me, just a little like blurb about yourself or the services that you offer? And then here's where that one-to-one CRM comes into play. So put it in your CRM so you have there. Because now, 2 months from now, if I meet someone, I'm like, oh, I actually think Kristina could be the right fit to refer. Let me go back and check and see who our ideal clients are, and if this would be a good introduction, and know exactly the best way to refer. So like, that's how you end up with the opportunity to get a lot of business from the groups that you're in. But just going in and selling from day one when you introduce yourself, that's not the best approach, in my opinion.
And I don't think I've ever talked about this on this podcast before, but I did go to an event once. It was like a female event in Toronto. And I sat next to this woman. She was like, oh, hey, I'm a mortgage broker. I really hope that she isn't listening to this. I don't think she would be. But she was like, hey, I'm a mortgage broker. Do you have any leads for me? And I remember I had this cringy feeling about it. Like, I was like, ooh. Because I, of course, know 10 mortgage brokers. Like, everybody else knows 10 mortgage brokers. But that's a trust game, right? Like, you're building relationship. You're building trust. Like, and that's why these connection calls and these types of relationships are so important, is because I totally agree. People like to work with people that they like. So how do you show up for people? And I think there's this mentality, and I'd love for you to speak to this, like online and in business, where it's like this fear of giving too much away and being worried that like people won't buy if you give away too much for free. And I think like it's one thing if you're doing someone's 6-month social media strategy for free, that's a different thing. But I have no problem if I'm doing, I just at 9:00 had a connection call with someone from Entreprenista, and she was like, well, what do you think about my social? And I was like, yeah, let's dive in. Like, I'll give you some feedback. Like, why don't you try this? Like, oh, have you ever tried to do it like this? This is a tool I love. I don't expect work from that, but that was a great opportunity for me to show like authority. I'm using air quotes around my craft, so that even if she doesn't want to outsource social, if she knows someone that does, I might be a good fit. So curious for you, like, what are your kind of thoughts around that idea of like sharing too much for free?
It all comes down to execution, right? So someone actually has to execute and do the work. So if you're sharing your knowledge and expertise in like a consulting call, and as a service provider and consultant, you do have to share things to win business, right? Someone isn't just going to hire you without a proposal, without seeing how you think, to be sure that you're a right fit. So there are things that have to be, I'll use your air quotes too, given away, right? Because you can't hire someone without knowing their experience and if they're the right fit to work with you, to see their thought process and that they're going to be a good partner for you. If you're doing free social media work for months and months at a time, like that's not okay. But that upfront consultation, putting together a proposal, sharing that you are the right fit, you have the knowledge, skills, and ability to be that great partner for them in a service-based business, especially in marketing, you kind of have to do that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, I'm curious for you too, like in the early stages, like was that something you were worried about? Because I think especially for you, it was the Wild West, like of social media. So probably nobody knew anything about it. I work in a bit of a different space now where people are dangerous with the amount of information they know about my craft. So I'm curious for you, like was that ever something that you were concerned about?
I don't remember. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's hard to go back all these years. I can barely remember yesterday. I don't remember ever being worried about giving away too much. I mean, even in the early days, Courtney and I did do one-on-one consulting. So we did charge an hourly rate for consulting. So if someone wanted actual training, we were then charging for our time. So again, in the early days of Socialfly, and even today, you know, Courtney runs our agency business, and Caitlin and Bree on the Socialfly team do, you know, marketing a new business at Socialfly. So like there is a whole process to be able to win new business, and part of that is having a consultation call with a client, understanding their challenges, putting together a proposal to show how you as this agency partner can solve their marketing problems and help them win in business. So there is just work that has to be done up front to win that business. So I don't really know any way around that unless you're charging just on some type of like subscription where it's not you, like your brain power against someone else's brain power and what sets you apart from other agencies. Like you really have to show what sets you apart.
Totally agree. Yeah, I love that. And thank you for that perspective, because I think it's challenging, and I hear this a lot with even clients that I coach, that it's like they're like, well, I don't want to talk in my stories too much about that. And I'm like, no one's ever going to know you do that unless you talk about it. And they're not going to know how good you are until you're passionate about it. So it's like I'm like, even the first mastermind I ever joined, I did half an hour sessions with every single member where I poured in on what they were up to and like things I saw that they could do better. And like, I just, to be frank, we made hundreds of thousands of dollars off that $10,000 mastermind, because it was like, we showed up fully and never sold. And at the end of one of them, this woman was like, are you going to send me a package? I'm like, if you ask me for one. And she's like, why do you do this? Like, I don't understand like why like you would do this and not try to like pitch us at the end. And I was like, because if this is good and this is something that feels aligned for you, I don't need to pitch myself. And so it was a really like it's an interesting perspective, because I think people do get cagey about sharing.
Yeah. Share, because at the end of the day, execution is the name of the game. So if you're sharing things that someone can execute and then they're doing really well with the strategy you gave, they're going to remember that you were the one who gave that strategy. Now their business is going to be booming from your strategy. They're not going to be able to keep being the one potentially to manage it, because they're going to have to do other things in the business. If their business is growing, they'll probably come back to you. Yeah,
I totally agree. Okay, I could literally talk to you all day, but I have one more question for you before I let you tell everybody about how incredible Entreprenista is. Not that you need permission, but okay, my last question for you is, if someone was early stage, so they are you and Courtney in Frank's office, maybe even pre that point, we're in the side hustle era.
Yeah.
What are the first things you would tell them to do to start building their community? And like, I know it's such a different world than when you were doing it at the beginning. So I totally think that the online space has like really helped in that situation to make connections and all of that stuff. So you're like a little pioneer. But curious for you what you would tell people to do.
Well, I wish Entreprenista had existed when we first started, because that would have fast-tracked everything that we did and were able to accomplish over 11 plus years. We probably would have been able to do it in 3. Really, it's joining communities, whether it's Entreprenista or another community that feels right for you, being around other founders who are even a little bit farther along than you are, so you have the resources and you have people to go to for questions. In business, we're all dealing with a lot of the same challenges, right? So if you have a group that you can go to just ask a question and get a really quick answer and not have to be spending, a half hour, 45 minutes, 2 hours trying to figure something out by Googling something. At the end of the day, all we have is our time, right? So if you're in a service-based business and you are just starting out and you're doing your business as a side hustle, like you need to optimize for the time that you have. And if you want to be growing that business to then ultimately leave your full-time job to have your side hustle be full-time, you need your time spent on your side hustle be doing as many things to generate revenue as possible so you can leave your full-time job. So by being in communities like Entreprenista, you'll have all of these resources and can fast track that. And you have access to amazing people like you, Kristina, who can share your learnings as well. And a lot of women who are looking for service providers as well. So not to, just sit here and talk about Entreprenista all day long, but it's why we created it. And it's really meant for that. And you're not alone. Like we're building Entreprenista and still growing Socialfly. Like Courtney and I, we're doing it. We're doing the same things everyone is doing as well. And like, we're here to talk about it. We're here to lend support. We're here to share our learnings. We're here to share the things that have failed and not gone well and what we've learned from them. And we've made a lot of mistakes that I wish, again, like some of the mistakes we had we had a community like Entreprenista we made a huge mistake 5 years ago. Had we had a community like Entreprenista, we probably would have gone to the community to ask for advice and gotten better advice than us trying to figure it out ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And I would say and then I'll let you pitch Entreprenista in a second, but I was going to say one of the things that's so amazing about these communities is that like people are so willing to be like-minded with you and to pour into you and jump on calls with you and you answer questions. And I see it in Entreprenista where people will ask questions and like not many, if any, go unanswered, where people are like, hey, I know this person can really help you, or I connected with this person, and that's a great opportunity for you to be connecting. Or I'm even seeing it with PR as like a huge thing. Like people in the group are all looking for PR opportunities, and that's how I got my little like entrepreneur magazine thing, was because I was like, oh, I would love to do that, cool. But it was through people offering and people asking and having these conversations. And so I like encourage you folks, like as you're listening, like I'll let Steph talk a little bit more about Entreprenista and how to join, but if you're looking for a community, it's an amazing space to be because everyone there is so kind, but they want to see you win. And I think that's the most important thing about a community is you don't want to be in community with people who don't want to see your business be successful and aren't willing to make a referral or make a connection for you. You want to be in community with people who are excited about it. So, Steph, I would love for you to tell everybody a bit about Entreprenista, how they can join. We're going to release this episode in good timing so that people will be able to take fast action. But curious from you.
Oh, perfect. I will share all of that. I want to share one thing back to what you were just saying about everyone winning. So my favorite space or room, as we call them in our community platform, is the Celebrate Room. And it's women in the community sharing like all of these great things that are going on in their business and collaborations that are happening in the community. So every morning, the first thing that I do, it's not check Instagram. It used to be I would check Instagram first. I go to our community platform and I go to that Celebrate section and I see like all of these collaborations and wins that are happening with our members and the community. And it's just like, it's the best. Like, it's seriously, I could cry. Like, I cry multiple times a week when I see all these things happening in there. I'm like, everyone is just killing it.
Oh, so I love that. And I'm going to give you a quick accolade if I can. But I think, like, you are somebody who embodies leadership of what you're doing in such a meaningful way, because it's easy for us to be in these spaces where I know your agency is really successful, and for you to like be like, oh, I'm so far ahead, I'm going to reinvest this money into a yacht. I'm going to reinvest this money into a Ritz-Carlton stay, like whatever it is, but whatever you're excited about. But like, you invest like your time, your energy, your money back into helping other women be able to create lives of their like dreams, right? Like this is impactful work. And so I said this to you when we were talking earlier. I was like, oh, like your daughter, she's so cute and she's so lucky because she's going to look back on this like season that you're in right now and be like, oh my gosh, my mom impacted all these incredible women. And this is just the beginning. So I'm so excited for you. Anyway, now I'll let you talk about it.
It made me cry. We're just have a cry fest here at this end of this podcast episode. Thank you, Kristina. No, it's true. Courtney and I, look, we invested our own money into initially building Entreprenista. You were absolutely right. We could have pocketed money from Socialfly and bought whatever we wanted to buy, but we wanted to invest in building this business and building this community because we know the impact that can be made when we bring women together, and people are here to connect and to collaborate. And at the end of the day, we need to have more women founders making a lot of money, because that is going to set the change for all the funding issues that are out there, like all of the problems. Like us women, we can solve it all, but we need to have the money to be able to make those power decisions to move everything forward. So we're all doing it together. It's not me, it's not Courtney, it's not about us, it's about the community. And I say that all of the time, and you see, like on our Instagram, on our socials, everything, nothing with Entreprenista is about me and Courtney. Like, we're here to be like the conduits to connect everyone, sure, but we're here to tell everyone stories and to get your business out there, to get seen, to get featured, to do whatever you need. We want to connect you with the right people. And I'll always say, like, if I don't know the answer to something, or I can't help with something, like, I'll just send you, I'll connect you to the people that can. That's my superpower.
Oh, I love it. Oh, okay. So now tell everybody how they can join Entreprenista, and also advanced step, how they can get in contact with you. If they're like listening to this and they're like, oh my gosh, that really resonated. Where's the best place for them to connect with you?
Yes. Well, when you join the community, you can send me a DM in the community platform. But if you have not joined the community yet, feel free to send me a DM right over on Instagram. That's me on there all the time. I respond to all of my messages. My Instagram is @StephJillCartin, and I'm sure we can just link out to it so you guys can find me over there easily. And then to join the Entreprenista community, we do open enrollment now every 3 months. So our next open enrollment will be September 12th. Through September, let me give you the exact date. September 12th to September 22nd is when you can join the community and take advantage of all the amazing things Kristina just shared she is doing in the community as well. The best place to join is entreprenista.com/join. And then Kristina, Kristina has a special link. You'll put your special link in the show notes as well. If you are listening to this episode before the week of September 11th, we do have some info sessions coming up on September 12th and 14th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you can come hear a whole overview of what you'll get access to by being part of the community. We're also going to be doing a live office hours with an incredible founder on September 13th. And then Courtney and I are going to be doing a session that week during Experience Week on our 7 secrets to growing 2 7-figure businesses that you can come to on that Friday. And then again, open enrollment is September 12th to the 22nd to join the community.
Oh, I love that. Steph, all of that will be linked in the show notes. And folks, if you're interested in or you have questions about Entreprenista, feel free to DM me about it. I love it. I talk about it all the time. If I'm doing a connection call that's not with Entreprenista, I'm always trying to push them to come join me because it is such an amazing community to be a part of. And Steph, thank you so much for your time. And I was just so excited when Stacy connected us because I admire you so much. And I'm just so grateful that you shared all of your wisdom with my community.
Well, thank you for having me. And if I can be a resource to anyone, again, feel free to reach out. Thank you again, Kristina.
Yay, awesome. And thank you to everyone so much for listening. I know it's busy. I appreciate every time that you choose us to listen to. And let us know what you think. Feel free to DM us and share with a friend. Thanks so much for listening to the Build Your Digital Community podcast. If you loved the episode, please don't forget to rate us and leave us a review. Now, we'd love for you to be a part of our digital community. Text JOIN to 855-908-4688 to join our text list for exclusive social media tips, or DM us on Instagram @thesocialsnippet, letting us know what you loved about the episode. Keep on building community, and to this and so much more.